Welcome to this week's supply chain update, brought to you by Phoenix International. We start with tariffs. On September 9th, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the IEEPA tariff case in early November. Those tariffs remain in effect until a ruling. On September 16th, a new US-Japan trade deal takes effect, applying a 15% baseline duty on most Japanese imports while cutting US auto tariffs to 15%, retroactive to August 7th entries. And as of September 8th, Annex II exemptions were revised, adding 52 HTS codes, removing 131, and shifting most copper to Section 232. Turning to freight markets, on the Trans-Pacific eastbound, demand is subdued heading into Golden Week. A September GRI is active with another increase likely, while the peak season surcharge is pushed to October 15th. On the Far East westbound, demand is weak. The SCFI dropped to $1,315 per TEU in week 37, and spot rates could fall another 5 to 10% later this month. On the transatlantic westbound, demand is stable, though spot levels eased to around $1,900 per FU in early September, about 5% below June. Now let's look at operations. On the Trans-Pacific eastbound, equipment availability has improved since July. A September 9th incident at Long Beach involving a chartered vessel led to a Coast Guard safety zone, but overall port activity was unaffected. On the Far East westbound, congestion at destination ports continues to extend transit times even as origin equipment levels normalize. And on the transatlantic westbound, Antwerp remains congested with 8-day dwell times. Northern Europe hubs see delays of 2 to 4 days, and Southern Europe faces 3 to 6 days of disruption. Inland shortages persist in Central and Eastern Europe. Next, capacity management. On the Trans-Pacific eastbound, carriers are using blank sailings and suspensions to address excess supply, leaving space broadly available in September. On the Far East westbound, carriers are seeking extra cargo to fill open space in the second half of September. And on the transatlantic westbound, overall vessel supply is steady, though inland capacity remains constrained by equipment. Shifting to Latin America, spot rates on Asia to Latin America lanes remain under downward pressure, with global benchmarks easing about 3% week over week. Schedules are steady, though some sailing adjustments are in place to balance utilization. Operationally, selective omissions occurred this week: Manzanillo on September 9th and Callao on September 12th, though other gates are operating normally. On the compliance side, no new measures were introduced, but enhanced origin checks continue, and shippers using indirect routings should allow for 1 to 3 extra days. Let's move to trucking. In the US, truckload and LTL rates increased in August despite soft demand. Long-distance truckload pricing rose 1.8% month over month, the largest jump since late 2024, although still slightly below last year's level. The increase reflects shippers balancing present capacity with expectations for future demand. Finally, on energy trade, diverging US and EU policies on Russian oil sales to India are expected to trim October shipments. Russian crude flows to India are projected at about 1.4 million barrels per day, down from 1.6 million in September, as the EU lowered its price cap to $47.60 per barrel and some volumes shift to China. The divide is creating added uncertainty for buyers and carriers involved in this trade. Concludes our update on the global supply chain. Thank you for joining us. We will continue to monitor these developments and keep you informed.